On December 28th, 2021, I got started on the biggest Minecraft project I have ever worked on. The goal was to recreate the entirety of Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex from Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach in Minecraft. I have been non-stop working in this Minecraft world for almost the past 8 months, but finally the Mega Pizzaplex is all completed and fully functional for both the Java and Bedrock versions of the game, and you can now download and explore this map for yourself. This build has a total of 2,167,757 blocks, with 25,169 of them being the command blocks that make the place functional. In all, it is estimated that a total of 550 hours was spent on this project. Now, since the Mega Pizzaplex is such a massive build and I was the only person working on this project, I made sure to set myself some personal goals and guidelines to follow to make sure I wouldn't get burned out while building. I challenged myself to make a new location of the Mega Pizzaplex every week and then upload a video to share my progress. This gave me enough time to build each area, but also ensure that I was consistently making a new part of the location. These set of videos eventually came together to make up the 16-episode series where you can watch me build each area of the Mega Pizzaplex through the form of third-person time-lapse footage, the playlist of which can be found on my channel. These locations include the main entrance and lobby, the Superstar Daycare, the Atrium, the Bakery, Rockstar Row, Monty's Gator Golf, Mazercise, L-Chips, the Superstarcade, the Prize Counter, the Fazcade, Fazablast, Bonnie Bowl, the Glamrock Beauty Salon, Roxy Raceway, the Kitchen, the main loading dock, Parts and Service, the Utility Tunnels, the Sewers, and Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place. Now, I've made it sound like this was a very easy project to work on, but in fact, each one of these locations had their own set of challenges that made the build difficult in a unique way. These ranged from choosing block palettes for a build all the way up to planning the layout of entire locations. It made the most sense to begin the Pizzaplex by building the main lobby, as it would be easy to connect the other location that it leads to. While the main lobby itself didn't have any challenges while building, what made this part different, however, was the fact that there was no prior planning to this build, which resulted in me making a lot of changes in the future. The daycare was next, which was the first time I used outlines to plan out a build. The room of the daycare itself was not hard in the slightest to build, but what posed the biggest problem was designing the play structures in a way that looked visually appealing but also allowed the player to wander around inside. However, I'm really happy with the ending result of the daycare, and it ended up being the most viewed video in the building series. Up next was the Atrium. This is special as this was the point where I realized that I was going to be able to build the entire Pizzaplex in Minecraft. This is the second biggest area of the entire build, and having it so early in the series was a massive boost for my self-confidence. Even though the Atrium made me work over my week-long time frame, it still massively helped me know what to expect for the rest of the build. Rockstar Row was the first time that I struggled with the build's outlines. The main reason is that I had to build a large-scaled hallway in between multiple other areas and then make it all connect back to the atrium. Not only this, but the curved angles of the main hallway were difficult to get right, especially when fitting the green rooms inside. This caused a few headaches and redesigns, but also prepared me for the mess of outlines that future locations would have. Monty Golf was after that, and honestly, it was probably one of my favorite parts of the build. Not only was there very little problems with the building process, but it was also a change of scenery from the bright and flashing lights. Making a golf course in a swamp-like environment with custom trees scattered around was a ton of fun and let me build in different ways. The build itself didn't even take that long to make, so I was able to build Mazercise as well, all in the same week. This was the first time that I'd added together all the time-lapse footage, which ended up being a total of 7 hours and 55 minutes of building. The East Arcade is next, and this is where the design of the Pizzaplex started to get tricky. I was building L-Chips, the Superstarcade, and the Prize Counter all at the same time, and since they all connect to different entrances around the atrium, it made it difficult to line up each location properly. I specifically remember having to tear down the lower half of the East Arcade multiple times in order to fit the corridor that leads up to the prize corner, and also to make sure that there was enough space to fit the security office that was in between the two attractions. This area had a total build time of 8 hours and 37 minutes. However, nothing like this was compared to the Fazcade. Longtime viewers will know all about this build and its infuriating complications. This was the first time that the outlines took over 4 days to prepare with multiple redesigns, and it was all due to the fact that building a room full of angles in a game full of blocks kinda sucks. Once all the outlines were finally built in, the rest of the build was very simple as it only took 8 hours and 35 minutes to fill in the rest of the area. Though the Fazcade was a pain to build, it ended up being one of my favorite attractions of the Pizzaplex. After a week-long break from the project, I then moved on to Fazblast and Bonnie Ball in the same week. It was a little worrying to see if I would be able to fit Bonnie Ball at the right level above Fazblast, but other than that, the build was another relatively simple part of the Pizzaplex, and mapping out and recreating the exact same maze layout as in Security Breach was a really cool experience. And a quick fun fact about this build is I had to move the West Arcade up by 10 blocks in order to fit Bonnie Ball in the right place. That wasn't fun. In the end though, Fazblast and Bonnie Ball had a total of 10 hours and 39 minutes of build time. Next was Roxy Raceway and the Beauty Salon, the biggest attractions of the Pizzaplex. Instead of the normal week to work on a build, I had to spend another week working on it, as this time it just took 5 days to outline both areas. The theming of this area was very different than the other attractions however, as there are giant mountains and cliffs to represent a desert environment. Also, the Roxy Raceway has my favorite pixel art of the entire Pizzaplex, that being the massive Roxanne Wolf pixel art with the racing attire. This build ended up taking a total of 20 hours and 58 minutes. With the raceway finished, I had completed all the main parts of the Pizzaplex build and began working on the basements, starting with the kitchen and main loading dock. This was once again where planning was essential, as almost all the areas under the Pizzaplex have branching hallways that connect to other parts of the basement. Along with the kitchen, I built the main loading dock as well as the staff quarters next to it. This build had a total of 9 hours and 16 minutes of build time. Parts and service was next week's build, and while the area was relatively small, I decided to build the utility tunnels at the same time. The parts and service areas are quite linear with only one main path to follow, however the utility tunnels extend out to separate rooms, some even connecting back up to the kitchen through some out-of-limit hallways. Overall, not that bad of a build, however this probably had the messiest outlines of any other location of the Pizzaplex. This build took a total of 12 hours and 37 minutes to complete. Just under the kitchen is the sewers, which was something I was dreading for building for a while. Instead of having flashy and colorful hallways, there is a lot of natural terrain all around the place, from trash walls and trash caves all the way to rock faces on the main room. The biggest problem with the sewers, however, did not come from the build itself, but rather Security Breach, as the Staffbot siloed room does not have a ceiling to it, meaning I had to design my own. However, the final build of the sewers has ended up becoming one of my favorite parts of the build, despite the trash look to it. The sewers took a total of 15 hours and 15 minutes to build. Finally was Freddy Fazbear's Pizza Place underneath the Roxy Raceway. Just like the sewers, the majority of this build is made up of natural terrain, such as the tunnel that leads all the way down to the pizzeria itself. This area had the shortest build time of any other location, with a total of 5 hours and 48 minutes of the build. Because of this, I decided that it would be a fun idea to give the place some more character by adding in some particle effects and some working office doors in the boss fight room. There was, however, something that I built but never showed off on video, and that is the exterior of the Pizzaplex. This was the very last thing that I built, as I wanted to make sure that I had the space to do whatever I wanted. Now, while you are not able to access this area in Security Breach, there is still a small entrance to the building that has been modeled that I made sure to copy over to this map. The rest of the exterior, however, is completely custom, so it was very fun to be able to use my imagination to design what this massive parking lot should look like. Compared to the interior of the Pizzaplex, I wanted to keep the exterior relatively simple, which is why the outer wall is fairly minimalistic, but you can still find some decorations, such as the main logo at the front entrance, and also the 4 security logos of the Glamrock animatronics. Now that the main Pizzaplex build was all completed, I then had the thought of taking this recreation one step further and add in all the playable arcade minigames that can be found in Security Breach. Not only can you now explore the entirety of the Mega Pizzaplex in Minecraft, but you can also play Princess Quest 1, 2, and 3, Monty's Mini Golf, and Balloon World as well. Turning these minigames from a 2D form into Minecraft's 3D environment was a little challenging, but I did manage to add in every feature with the help of command blocks nonetheless. Princess Quest 1 comes fitting with all the torches that need lighting in order to open up different rooms to progress forward, while the other 2 Princess Quests also come with their unique features, with the second game giving the player a sword and the third game having all the puzzles and mazes. The mini-golf minigame was not nearly as challenging as the Princess Quests, however I was still not sure how to go about it before building. I finally landed on the idea of giving the player an ender pearl so that way they could play as the golf ball and try to launch themselves into the hole. Each course comes with a new environment, with some even having animated props to try and stop you from finishing. The last minigame to create was Balloon World, which didn't give me any challenges at all, as it used the same command blocks as the other 2 arcades which I had been used to using at that point. This game is a lot more relaxed than the other 2, as it is a very linear parkour course where the only thing to worry about if you miss a jump is starting all over from the very beginning. Once all of these minigames were added, I was not fully completed with the map just yet. Building all the minigames inspired me to do something I never thought I'd be able to do, which was to make the Pizzaplex as functional as possible. This added a lot more features to the map, with the most important one being the inclusion of working block built doors that open up to let you move on to the next area. The rather simple 2x3 single doors, the slightly bigger 4x3 double doors, and even the larger sliding doors that lead to the main attractions. Every elevator in the build is also functional, and they all come built in with different Fazfacts along with the jingle that plays in note block form. Even the saving stations are an added feature to this map, which are placed all over the Pizzaplex and can be used to set a player spawn point. While the gameplay from Security Breach has not been replicated one-to-one, there are still some parts of the game that have been added in, such as the Fazbear Capture the Flag minigame, which can be played with multiple other players. Another gameplay feature that has been added into this map is a working maze-sized control panel that changes the layouts of the maze. And finally is my personal favorite of the bunch, which is the daycare generator sequence where the lights get turned off and requires all the generators hidden within the plate structures to be turned back on in order to escape the daycare. Players can climb through the entire area and even through the slides to get to other places faster. The last feature I'll quickly go over are the Easter eggs hidden throughout this build. I loved the inclusion of the gift boxes and bags scattered throughout Security Breach, so I decided to add a few of my own custom ones for the build. I will give no further elaboration, all I will say is have fun finding them. Once the map was in a completed state, I was then tasked with porting the map over to the Bedrock edition of Minecraft. Now while this might not sound like a big deal, the two versions of Minecraft have a surprising amount of differences. Every single input command had been using the /execute command, which doesn't work in the exact same way on Bedrock as it does in Java. So to fix this, every /execute command had to be replaced with a /test4 or /test4 block command. It had already taken me a few months to set up the command blocks on the Java edition, and admittedly I didn't want to keep people waiting for my map any longer. So I asked a friend to join the world to tell me what coordinates the input commands needed to be linked to, so that way I could change the command blocks without having to go back and forth between the commands and the build itself. We paced ourselves to do every command block of at least one location every day, and sometimes doing multiple builds at a time, which let us finish the conversion in just under 2 weeks. It was really fun seeing their reaction to the Pizzaplex and all of its working features, and this just made me more excited to see what everyone else would think of the build. And in case you are interested in the behind the scenes of how I made it all work, then keep an eye out on the channel, as I plan on making a video dedicated to the command blocks in the future. Now that I've talked about the features and functionalities of the map, I want to bring up the building experience itself throughout these past months, as like I mentioned, this is my biggest Minecraft project to date and I learned a lot from this build. Since I was recreating something from another game, I spent the first 1 to 4 days of each week studying the area in Security Breach with the help of the debug camera, and then outlining each room in Minecraft using different colored concrete blocks to indicate where walls, doorways, and even props would be placed. Outlines can seem like a very unnecessary part of building, but I would not have been able to recreate the Pizzaplex with this much accuracy without them. A question I got asked a lot while building was how I was managing to build this place so quickly, and there is a simple answer to it. Preparing builds in advance helped me out a lot, as instead of destroying half a finished build if I made a mistake, I could just destroy small outlines and then quickly start again. The last days of building was when I was actually filling in the outlines of each room, all while I still had Security Breach open on a second monitor, so that way I could have a constant source of reference material while building. When recreating something in Minecraft, it is very important to know what you are actually building. Good reference material can be images, videos, or even owning the game that you are recreating. Having the game open while I was building showed me what colors the walls should be, how high the ceiling was, and what decorations went where, which resulted in me having over 800 hours of playtime in Security Breach. Once the whole Pizzaplex was done, I then went back to each location to make some changes and added in some details that I'd missed. If you've watched the entire building and tour series, you'll notice some changes such as the floor of the lobby changing blocks, or carpet patterns added into the atrium, and even up to custom player heads that I added in for more detail. Something that did need changing, however, was the light of each build. I had been using a night vision texture pack throughout the entire building process to be able to see more clearly. Obviously I did not want to keep this for the final build, so I used light blocks as invisible light sources all over the Pizzaplex. At the time I had just been introduced to these blocks and I had already loved them so much for how effectively they they could change a build's look. Working at my own pace and setting myself goals to work towards really helped with my confidence and motivation to complete the build. Something that you have to learn is that big projects are going to take a lot of time, so you cannot expect to start working on something and then get it done within an hour. Knowing your limits before you start building helps out a lot too, as if the building starts to get a little complicated, you're most likely going to lose interest that you had in the build. These are the most important tips I learned from this build, and I've been a better builder since then, so hopefully you're able to try this out for yourself in your own future projects. Building the entire Pizzaplex in Minecraft and then making it functional was some of the most fun I've ever had in Minecraft, as I was able to take my favorite game of all time and my favorite game franchise of all time and combine them together into one amazing project. Not only that, but making the place as functional as possible pushed me way out of my comfort zone, and seeing the results start to take shape was a surreal experience. While I'm not the biggest fan of some choices made in Security Breach, I just could not pass on the opportunity to make the Mega Pizzaplex in Minecraft, as it was my favorite part of the game to get lost and explore all of it. I wanted to recreate that experience into Minecraft for not just myself, but for the others who have not played the game yet to experience the location for themselves. Before Security Breach launched, I told myself that I wanted to make this game the biggest part of my life, and this was definitely not what I was expecting, to say the least. Thank you all so much for stopping by to see me work on this project, as once again these last 8 months have been absolutely amazing. Remember, if you want to download this map for yourself, then the links of the map can be found in the description down below, on Planet Minecraft, and on MCPEDL for both the Java and Bedrock versions of the game for versions 1.18.1 plus. All I'll say is don't be an ass and do stupid things with the build, like taking credit for it or re-uploading the map. Being respectful of others and their work is the first step in being able to have an awesome community. So what's next for me and the future of my channel now that the Pizzaplex is out? First things first, I think I'm going to take some time off from videos. Don't get me wrong, making videos is my favorite thing to do, but with my final year of school just starting, it's a perfect time to take a step back for a little while and focus on something just as important. I think that I finally found my spot on YouTube. Recreating my favorite games in Minecraft and sometimes making my own builds has been extremely fun to do, and people seem to like the result anyway. I'll most likely stick around FNAF, as that's what my channel has been grown around. However, I am open to other games as well. Lots of people have been asking for me to build Poppy Playtime Chapters 1 and 2, so maybe I'll take a shot of that in the future as another Pizzaplex-sized project. Going back to the topic of the Pizzaplex, if something does somehow break and requires fixing, I will be sure to patch up those bugs and update the map link to have more stable versions. I have gone over the build multiple times to check and make sure that everything works as intended, however it might just be a Security Breach thing for there to be bugs and glitches, so I'll be sure to get those sorted out. A quick disclaimer I want to bring up about this build is that this was made for a single player experience, however this map is still multiplayer compatible in some ways. With that being said, there may be some issues with the way command blocks work, especially revolving around the minigames. If there is anything substantial that does end up breaking, I'll be sure to patch that up in a future update. Something else I'd like to bring up is the Ruin DLC. Lots of people have asked about this, and I did make a post earlier this year just after the teaser dropped announcing that I would be recreating the DLC as well. I do still plan on doing this, however I can't say with a definite answer that I will, as I don't know what's going to be happening in 2023. We'll just have to wait and see what happens there. And now the final thing that I want to bring up is the fact that I'm not going to be completely done with the Pizzaplex just yet. Some of you may know that I have been playing around with the idea of recreating the gameplay from Security Breach and putting it into this Minecraft map for a full Security Breach experience in Minecraft. This is still an extremely ambitious idea of mine that would definitely not be worked on anytime soon, but it is something I know that I could do if I took on the challenge. But with that, that is going to leave it for today's video and my series of me building Freddy Fazbear's Mega Pizzaplex from Security Breach in Minecraft. Thank you all again so much for taking the time and checking out this project, as this year has been absolutely incredible and I can't wait to see how I'm going to finish it off. If you are interested in what projects I'm going to be working on next, then be sure to subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so that way you know next time I upload, and you can also help the channel to continue to grow. So with that, thank you all so much for watching, and as always, I will of course see you in my next video.